In respect of disability services and particularly respite services, there's anomalies across different areas and even within CHOs that, to my mind, are resulting in the discrimination of some children and their families based on where they happen to live. I've been dealing with a number of people in my own constituency in Cavan Monaghan who are trying to secure respite care for their children. And in one particular case, it's a horrendous case where a family are just going through absolute hell, not only in terms of the child's needs and disabilities and for the family's general need for respite, but there are other members of the family that are seriously ill at the moment, and the pressure is crazy. The difficulty is in Cavan Monaghan, the HSE have a criteria, a statement of purpose for respite care that resolves, and it's very specific. A child must have a diagnosis of a moderate or severe intellectual disability in order to be even considered. This child that I'm talking about, if they lived in County Louth, Meath, Sligo or Leitrim, would have access to respite care, would have an entitlement to it. Right? There's issues in terms of the actual provision of the services. So, for example, in Sligo and Leitrim, and these are all correspondences from the HSE in response to parliamentary questions, the eligibility for a child to access respite care is that the child is known to the Children Disability Network team as 6 years or older, which is the case across the board, that the approval have been made by the Children's Referral Committee, and the HSE Respite Coordinator completes a determination of needs assessment. In that's Sligo and Leitrim. In Louth or Meath, there is a committee in place who base their decision on the following rationale: children who are accessing services in the respective CDNT, children in care of child or family agency, children who live with families where there are multiple instances of disability, children who present with significant behavioural challenges, which is very important, children who have a significant physical disability and require high support level of needs. I'm sure you can see the distinction between those two responses. For Cavan Monaghan, there is a very strict definition of moderate to severe intellectual disability. A child could have multiple needs, multiple reasons why they require respite, that are taken into consideration in the criteria in the two other areas that I'm after mentioned, but in Cavan Monaghan are completely overlooked and ignored. So my question is, how much longer are we going to stand over a situation where a child that I represent is discriminated against simply because they don't happen to live in a different county? And will we be ensuring that we have a framework across all areas so that there can be some level of at least discretion or and compassion, as I would call it, to be able to address cases such as the one I've mentioned?
And so I can just say, Deputy, that I agree with you, and looking at a standardised approach to respite services on a population base, and I think the known to the team is the critical factor actually, rather than the diagnosis. So if it's okay, I might come back to you on what that standardisation process would look like, and I specifically reference that in relation to Cavan Monaghan. And
what's the time frame for?
Well, the wider issue, rather than just that piece on Cavan Monaghan, which I'll have to go back, I wouldn't have been aware of, so I will have to revert on that. But the wider piece on respite services is part of the progressing the disability, the services plan overall. I think in the paper that we gave in advance of the meeting today, we were saying that some of the real challenges in respite has actually been the complexity of cases. So we have had to prioritise the available respite, and then in trying to enhance the available respite, part of that has been constrained generally by the availability of accommodation, housing, and the market more generally. So respite is one of the key things that
there is a need. There is a need to expand the services. There's no respite services at all in County Monaghan, for example. The one in County Cavan only operates for children on every second week, but it isn't much use expanding the services if the criteria is denying the children that need to access them.
I'd like to come back to you on the
criteria. And time is of the essence, because the family I'm talking about have been let down on so many fronts, not all within the HSE, Department of Education and others have other responsibilities, but this is one area that should be an easy fix to give the families some bit of breathing space in order to get through the turmoil they're going through, and they're being denied by the criteria in the place. So I welcome the fact that it's been looked at, but I would urge that it happens very quickly.
I will come back to you on that.